feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at Friday morning, it's October 10th. And coming up on today's show, I will be joined by Kyle Theige, as I am every Friday. And we actually have a pretty interesting preseason game to discuss for this episode. I thought it was interesting because the main guys played for both the Wolves and the Knicks last night. It was like 25 minutes for the starters from both teams. Ant even played 27 minutes. So I think we have a game to really talk about here. Kyle and I didn't really know who was all going to play necessarily going into it. So we planned like a what have we learned in training camp, or what do we think we've learned in training camp themed episode. But because the game was good, we do spend the majority of the episode here discussing the Wolves-Knicks game from last night. And then the final 20 minutes or so, we do a little what we've learned segment. So what we saw from the Wolves in New York and what we've learned about the Wolves thus far this preseason. Coming up next with Kyle Theige. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Kyle to wrap up the week. We have the Wolves-Knicks game from last night to discuss, and as Kyle informed me via text, we're halfway through the preseason, so we can kind of look back at the first half of the preseason and what we've learned, or what we think we've learned that we didn't know, entering training camp. But hi, Kyle, how are we feeling now 2 weeks into the Wolves season?
Happy Friday. It's October 10th, 10 days away from Tim Connolly's ping pong event, for those that are confused. No, happy Friday. It's a beautiful day out here in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, we're halfway through the preseason. And I think after watching again Wolves-Knicks again this morning, after watching it last night, I think you're starting to see some interesting trends on both sides of like, okay, that's some new stuff. That's an emphasis. And then I have some notes. It's like, oh, that is still the bane of my existence from last season. So wherever you want to start. But yeah, I thought Wolves-Knicks was a pretty good. That was a basketball game that then I think they pulled both starters on both sides. Second straight overtime preseason game. That is a living hell. But you got to see some real insights into what both teams are trying to do last night.
Yeah, it's always like a little bit of a adventure going into a preseason game when you don't know if it going to be the preseason game that randomly all the guys play a bunch, or is it going to be the preseason game where you show up and 7 of the main guys are out of the rotation. For podcast and content purposes, it makes it a little bit difficult to know what we're going to be able to, get into. But fortunately, this was the game. This was like, I think will be the game where a lot of the guys play. I would guess on Monday when they play the Lung Lions. That will not be a game where a lot of the starters play or the main guys play. But to that end, I thought it was really interesting that we got to see as much of Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle and many of the Knicks guys too. It was the preseason game that felt most like a regular season game. So I think for our purposes, it's worthwhile to not totally treat it like a regular season game recap sort of thing, or we dig into themes for an hour. But I think we have some relevant themes from that game that are an evolution off of the Denver game and the Indiana game. So I'll just let you start by picking a key theme from that game that stood out to you, whether it was right away or just throughout the maybe 3 quarters that the Wolves main dudes played.
Well, I don't like having the first pick in this draft because I think there's 2 really good top picks, but I'm going to go with the defense just because I was listening to you and Jace this morning. Again, worth mentioning, no Mike Conley last night, no Joe Ingles, no Leonard Miller, but then also no Jalen Clark from that CTE collision he had at Target Center the other day with DeLon Wright. But I thought the defense was really, really good. It was kind of a slugfest on both sides. Like the Knicks are trying out a bunch of new stuff offensively. I know Mike Woodson said, or not Mike Woodson, their coach said that they were like not calling plays, which is not true because you could see him calling plays, but they're trying to like play with more pace. They're trying to not be so stagnant under like the old Thibodeau regime. And then on the Wolves end too, I just thought they were flying around. I think they had held the Knicks to like under maybe 40 points at half, or 38 points at the half, with the Knicks playing Brunson and Ojen or Carl and all those guys. So I thought the defense was just really good, especially without Jalen Clark. And that's just building off of what you and Jace really hammered home on Thursday. Of that, again, the NBA survey came out and Chris Finch, I think, was second in votes of like having a really creative offense. I just don't think no matter who's on this team, this is an offensive minded team, even with Anthony Edwards. The defense will continue to be their calling card. And if they can harken back to the best defense that they've played, as you and Jace talked about a couple of years ago, I think that will be the thing that, like you said, when it would boil down against OKC, they would just kind of stop playing defense. When it would get tough in January and February, they would just kind of stop playing defense. If they can have that top 5 defense in the league that travels and they have with them every night through 82 games, I think that's just going to help buoy a lot of other maybe deficiencies or issues that they're trying to work out throughout the regular season.
Definitely a more engaged defensive team from the Wolves in this game. It was like you could tell that they got ripped from Finch after that Indiana game of like, yo, you knew this is what they were going to do. You didn't slow them down and you allowed the battered Indiana Pacers to score 37 points in the first quarter against our starters. Like, that's not what we're about, and I think that was clear that it was the main point of intention in this game. And we can talk about them playing a little bit faster too. I think that was another key like point of intention of kind of like the last thing the coach said in the huddle, the thing that really lasts. But yeah, defense was encouraging. I think this team, when it plays defense well, it's going to be like a brute force sort of defensive team, a little bit like strong, physical. I think they can kind of go up and down every roster combination, maybe outside of Rob, who's just smaller and thus not as strong. But I think when you're playing the Wolves, which is a little bit different than a couple years ago, you're coming in knowing they're going to beat you up defensively if they're engaged on defense. I saw that. The one main thing I had down from the defense, which is a trend that continues off of the Denver game. We talked about this after the Denver game where Jaden McDaniels did not guard Jamal Murray in that first game. They had Rob Dillingham and Bones Highland when they were out there with Jaden McDaniels. Those guys were guarding Jamal Murray, the point of attack. And then in this game against the Knicks, Jaden didn't play the second game, so we don't have a point of context there. But last night it was Anthony Edwards on Jalen Brunson, and Jaden was off ball guarding. I think he was on OG, right? But it was that same sort of idea. It's something that Jason and I talked about a lot yesterday too, which is, there's this value of having Jaden guarding somebody in the corner in that he can very easily, when the ball goes to the strong side, rotate over and be that secondary rim protector, which we love, right? We think Jaden is very good at that. I do still think Jaden is very, very good on ball, and I like both. And so I'm hoping for a mix, and this probably, is probably an indicator that there will be a mix of the way that Jaden is lined up defensively, because I don't have like a confidence that if it is Jalen Brunson, if it is Jamal Murray, and you have to put Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, Anthony Edwards on that main scorer guy, that you will consistently get ball containment anywhere near the level that you get from Jaden McDaniels. What like, I don't know. We've talked about this. We like this look that they're giving. Do you feel like it's a preseason testing the water sort of thing and giving the other guys reps on ball, trying to engage Ant on ball? What do you think of it? And what do you think the cost of doing it is too? Even though there are values to having Jaden off ball.
Well, I think the ironic part is that we both probably had the Knicks feed last night, right? With Clyde Frazier. And they talked about what they're trying to do with Mikal Bridges, who has always kind of been a comp for Jaden, that Mike Brown wants to do that with Mikal Bridges. Like, he is their best point of attack defender, but they want to get him off ball more so he can range, kind of free range around and use his length and stuff. So on the Minnesota side, they're doing the same thing with Jaden. I've almost come to grips with, I think Jaden is just too crazy and physical to guard some of those smaller players, because Jalen Brunson is the best in the league even I think better than Shea at just finding 1% of contact from his opponent and then just finding a way to get to the free throw line or get a foul called. He did it on Julius when he was driving baseline multiple times. So I don't think they're just test driving, putting other guys on ball. I think that's ideally what they would like to do. And we've always talked about for 6 years, like, how do you keep Ant engaged? I think they're just, as Jay said again, like Michael Jordan, won an MVP at 24, and he also was Defensive Player of the Year. I think they're just going to say, we're not really worried about your conditioning, because you've been telling everyone and how well conditioned you are this summer by having a summer off and working on your body and working on your game. So we're just going to put you on certain guys. Again, I think you mentioned Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, Anthony Edwards. I think Jalen Clark would be in that mix if he would have played last night, but I just think putting more.
I don't think he's going to play, man.
You don't think he's going to play? Okay.
I don't think he's going to play.
Okay.
We spent the whole episode talking about that yesterday, and we talked about what the value of that, what of playing Jalen Clark would be, is that you could put Jaden McDaniels off ball more often without really losing a step on ball. I just, due to limited spots in the rotation, I think I'm getting to the point where I would be a little bit surprised if Jalen has like a real opening night, opening week, opening couple weeks role on this team. If he does, then sure. Yeah, then sure, let's mix that up. I think, though, if Jalen Clark isn't in the rotation,
right,
then it is those guys, and that's a difference between New York and what we're talking about with Mikal Bridges, because if Mikal Bridges is off ball, OG Anunoby can be on ball. Josh Hart can be on ball. Deuce McBride can be on ball. I don't think the Wolves have the depth of point of attack defenders that the Knicks do. So if I'm Mike Brown, I'm like, yeah, let's try and mix this up and get Mikal off ball some more. I just think it's a little bit of a different calculus for Finch, given that they don't have Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the rotation anymore. And we don't, Terrence Shannon Jr. might be able to, I just don't think we know that yet.
No, that's a good comp, because Nickeil is probably your Josh Hart in that analogy. You know what I mean? In a sense, because if you say you take Mikal off ball, you take Jaden off ball, you can put OG on ball. Well, you can put Ant on ball. And those guys to me are both kind of more pit bulls.
But OG is levels better than Ant.
Sure, but that's because he can inject more of his effort and juice into the defensive side of the ball, because offensively last night there was 8 straight possessions where he didn't touch the ball or shoot. I know what you're trying to say. And
so do you think that's a thing, though? Is that are we still giving Ant that excuse this year?
No, that was kind of my point, is like, I don't think they're test driving. I think they're just literally saying, like, you have to do this now. Like, this is going to be what you're going to do in the regular season. This isn't just like for shits and giggles. You are going to guard the opposing teams. I mean, going back way back 10 minutes ago to your defensive physicality thing, I think they are, in a boxing analogy, they have to punch first. They always have to punch first. And in Indiana, they didn't punch first. And you know how you knew that? Because the second possession, Indiana's picking you up 94 feet, and that's them punching you first. So yeah. I think, to your point, they got hounded after that game, and they got hounded before the Knicks game. And they're like, we're going to punch back, or we're going to punch first. And you saw that last night. So yeah, I guess if Jalen Clark's out of the picture, and I respect that take, then it is like Ant, Mike, Rob. I guess you'd probably have to throw Dante in there too, right? Like, as another guy to put on there. Terrence is still kind of an unknown to me, because I don't know if he's like Jaden in a sense that he just plays too physical sometimes. I think there's a nuance to it. You can't just bang Brunson 26 feet from the rim.
Yeah, I know that possession you're talking about. It was so nice. It was like turn, and then he bumped him, that Shannon bumped him, but I thought that was still an encouraging possession.
For sure.
I'm not low on Shannon as a perimeter defender. I want to be careful with everything with Terrence Shannon Jr., that I'm not letting my image in my head of what I think he can be for sure truth. You know what I'm saying? I do. I'm betting on that. I have my chips on that square, that I am believing in what Terrence Shannon Jr. is and can be from even just a limited amount of what we've seen from him. But there's some danger in that, right? You know what I'm saying? There's just how many minutes has he played in
for sure
in total? There's some risk associated.
I had multiple people text me just one word: Powerball. last night because he has
Yeah.
not missed a three since we had that conversation earlier this week. No, again, just to kind of put a bow on this, because I think there's another really interesting topic from last night's game specifically, but I thought the defense was very intentional. I think, and you're going to see this, right? You're going to do 4 or 5 pods a week in an 82 game season. They're going to have lull games where they just don't really bring it, even though they say the right things. They're going to have those Indiana games, but that Indiana game to me was the perfect put it on film for the preseason stuff, because Indiana punched them first. They picked them up 94 feet. It didn't matter who was out there, right? Even TJ McConnell got hurt. There's no Halliburton. They just kept running out more guards to pressure Mike, to pressure Rob. And I thought Mike didn't play well that game. I thought Rob had his worst game maybe ever. So it's going to be an intention for them that those first couple minutes with a starting five, that's probably going to be the same starting five as last year, that they set the tone defensively, that then will kind of trickle in throughout the next 46 minutes.
What did you make of them playing a lot faster? That's a key takeaway from just watching it. It was a lot like bing, 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 going up the floor. How'd you, I have some thoughts on it, but what were your just initial thoughts on the speed at which the Wolves were playing?
5 stages of grief. We're in, I think, the bargaining phase right now, which I think is maybe step 3. I think step 4 might be depression, which last night I felt that at times watching them. Anthony Edwards gets out in transition. It is a positive step forward from this team last year. And he throws a bounce pass to Rudy Gobert in transition, which was so dumb. And then it led to that weird Karl-Anthony Towns tip turnover. But you can see them emphasizing just getting out and running. And I think, my opinion on Dante playing point guard. He started last night. I think through 3 games, they've started 3 different point guards, right? Rob against Denver, Mike against Indiana, and then Dante last night. I don't think Dante will start on October 22nd against Portland, but at least he just has get the ball and go, right? And kind of, he loves underhand Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce kind of toss to a teammate as they get on transition. It is very intentional as the defense is, because that is the theme of this team and organization. Getting out in transition is the number one thing they're talking about at practice and on the whiteboard before games. And I think it's just kind of like not a baby elephant or a baby giraffe, but like a teenage giraffe. Like, it's a little awkward. They still don't always know what they're doing. Multiple times, Ant Julius had a 2-on-1 where it's like, Julius, just throw the lob. Like, bring Madison Square Garden to their feet. And he kind of drives in for contact, does get fouled. But they still don't always know what they're doing, but at least the intention is there. They get stops, and if they get rebounds, which last night I think they gave up 18 offensive rebounds, but if they do get the ball, they try to run. They're not all coming back to the ball to get it from Rudy. And I think the intention is part of what you talked about earlier this week with Chris, of trying to create the habits, right? Because you can't become a top 7 transition team in October. It's probably going to take months of repetitions of remember, when we get the ball, we're going. And I think if they can find ways to strengthen that part of their offense, because we can talk about the half court offense, I think that will eliminate some of the frustrations we still all have with how it looks in a half court setting. But I don't know if I can remember something being as intentional as transition has been this preseason under Chris Finch.
Yeah. And you saw the fruit of the intention. They actually did it, right? They were actually looking for hit ahead passes. And actually the times when they didn't do it, there one play I remember, Julius, I think he got the defensive rebound, and then he's going up the far side of the court from the camera view, and Ant's kind of moving towards the left corner, and Julius ends up just driving right in through the slot. I think he gets fouled going for the left-handed layup. And you could see on the broadcast, Julius kind of with his hands goes, Ant, I was trying to give it to you. I was trying to pass to you, the hit ahead thing. Right. And he kind of did it with a smirk of, this is what we're doing. Right. This is what we talked about. And so I guess that's an example of the habit not totally forming, but that's how habits are formed, right? Is when you don't do it, it's underlined, right? Hey, we didn't do it here. Let's get it the next time. And I think Ant, generally speaking, played with a lot more transition intention, right? Than he did, but than he normally does. The game was a reminder that the greater the pace, the greater the turnover volume. That's just kind of a basketball truth, right? They They turned the ball over. I have it written down here. Six turnovers in the first 9 minutes of the first quarter. That's what the main guys out there. They had 12 turnovers in the first half and 18 by the end of the third quarter. That's when the starters stopped playing. So that's a 24 turnover pace that they were on in that game. Only one time last season did they have 24 or more turnovers in a game, and it was against Oklahoma City on New Year's Eve. And I think we all remember that game. If you're turning the ball over at that rate, it's just so difficult to be able to win a game. They were a high turnover team last year, 12th highest turnover rate in the league, and they were an extremely low transition volume team. So part of what is going to come with this transition intention, at least initially, is going to be more turnovers. And, now that needs to, that's the next bullet point on the whiteboard beneath, okay, transition intention, but, right, under control, transition with the semblance of control, because there's a balance there. You play in transition, you're going to score at a higher clip, right? When you shoot, but if you turn the ball over, you're not going to. So I think, given that they've determined this is such an important thing to them, I think it's encouraging that we saw that show up in the third preseason game, but it comes with an asterisk of they turned the ball over 18 times in the first three quarters when the main guys were out there. And that's a cautionary tale.
Everything you just said is spot on and very smart. I just want to push back a little bit because I had it actually written down. First 6 minutes of the first quarter, 3 turnovers on post-ups. And those all led to just breakaway, dunks and layups.
Good call.
And I'm wondering, I was actually going to text someone who actually knows basketball, Jim or something, and be like, I wonder if all turnovers are created equal, because if you turn the ball over in transition, you still have guys back. You know what I mean?
True.
Like classic 3-on-2 type drills, where last night, there was a couple of times too where I thought they got good looks. Even like Dante had one in the corner that he never misses, and he missed whatever, and he knew it right away. But if they turn the ball over in transition, trying to attack, and then it turns against them, they still got guys back. Last night, everyone listening to this is scarred and remembers this, but there's a 3-4 minutes in, there's a Julius Randle post up at the free throw line, shades of OKC. He doesn't know someone's behind him. They strip the ball, they go. And posted up on the block. We should talk about that because I'm already over that concept. Turns the ball over, and all of these just kind of led to 3-on-0, 3-on-1s. But again, to your point, if they play with more pace and more speed, they're going to, as they go through the 5 stages of transition, they're going to turn the ball over more. So I wasn't saying you were wrong. I just wonder.
No, you're right. You're right to point that out. That is.
I don't think all the turnovers were transition based. I think most of the turnovers that I can remember from just last night in one sample size was actually half court offense bullshit. Was this is the same. We're still running post-ups. What are we doing?
This episode is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. And every Sunday at Treasure Island during football season, the Parlay Lounge is the spot to watch Vikings games. There are always prize giveaways and drink specials in the Parlay Lounge during Vikings games. They had a whole Bloody Mary spread set up there this past weekend for the early game in London. However, there is no Vikings game this weekend because the Vikings are on bye. So it will be a Green Bay Packers watch party in the Parlay Lounge this weekend. Same deal for you Packer fans. Prize giveaways, drink specials. The Parlay Lounge is really cool. It's a really good setup for watching games. I know because we've done live shows and watch parties there for Wolves games, and I think you will enjoy yourself. If you're looking for a place to go and watch football on Sunday, specifically if you're a Packers fan this week, but all other weeks, make Treasure Island your home turf for every Vikings game this season, and visit ticasino.com for more information. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. And with the NBA season here, I want to direct you back again to the NBA season-long tab at Prize Picks. I think you maybe remember earlier when we were talking about season-long NFL numbers on there. It was more or less than 1,400 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley. And you could pick more or less on that and sort of track Saquon Barkley for the whole season. I kind of felt like having another fantasy football player on your team. They have it for the NBA too. How it works for the NBA is it's not total points for the season. It's per game averages. So you'll see Anthony Edwards on here at 27.7 points per game, more or less than that. They've actually moved that up a couple decimal points since we did our season-long picks pod a couple weeks ago with Kyle. I also noticed today they added a more or less than 0.5 50-point games for Anthony Edwards. So does Ant have a 50-point game this season? More than, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty likely to happen. I really do find these season-long ones kind of more fun than the daily ones. I've been tracking my season-long picks, and I think the NBA ones will be equally entertaining, especially if you're doing something Ant-related. As always, there's always something going on over at Prize Picks. To put together a lineup at Prize Picks, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks of any variation in your lineup to win. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, the promo code is Dane. And when you sign up, you receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane when you create your account. So do you think to that point of if Mike Conley plays in this game and he is the point guard and bringing the theoretical value that he does of helping control the offense in the half court and playing smarter, that there are fewer turnovers in that game? Or do you go, well, it doesn't matter, Dane. If Mike Conley's on the floor, Julius Randle still gets ripped right there.
Oh, I mean, if Mike Conley is on the floor, Julius Randle still gets ripped in that specific possession because he was doing some of the, and again, preseason, we're trying to get out of habits, right? Like Julius Randle has probably posted up at the free throw line for a net positive for most of his career. So trying to break that, but that no longer works. I mean, that is so easy to scout. And the Knicks did it last night, just like the Thunder did it. I think Mike Conley, in Chris Finch's eyes, we've said this multiple times, is just a conservative approach. He probably turns the ball over less. I think Dante in his pace and Rob in his pace and whoever else does increase the volatility of all this stuff. But I'm coming back to, I just need to see a longer, like, regular season sample size of, I don't know if turnovers all the time are bad. Like, obviously you can't be a high turnover team and win games, but I wouldn't mind it because, again, back to are all turnovers marked in the box score the same? Last night made me think maybe not, but
right.
Yeah, dude, everything still comes back to having a floor general out there, because I think Dante, and maybe this is the best time to slide this in, but I think Dante playing at point, starting at point, whatever, is good for everyone else. I don't think it's good for him. And that's why I still lean traditional and conservative and play Mike out there. But yeah, it's a good question. I wonder if Mike would have even allowed Julius to be in that spot, because Dante is, I don't know if you pick up on this.
That's
Dante
what
is very deferral. Like he is, and I guess that's, kind of my traditional quarterback thing, but he gets guys the ball. And sometimes I would love for Dante, if he's the one running the point, to be like, hey, Julius, you're not going to catch the ball at 18 feet when your back is to half the defenders, because it's going to get ripped and then there's going to be 2 easy points. So yeah, now I want to see that, right? Like I do want to see, I don't think Mike's going to play against China, but I would like to see Mike out there again and see, does he even allow some of these guys to get the ball in spots that are going to be bad?
Yeah, it's a data point, not necessarily like a super instructive one, or we can't find a definite, off of it. But I do think generally speaking, the faster you play, the more you're going to turn it over. The less Mike Conley's on the floor, again, generally speaking, the more you're going to turn it over. And as we get in preseason brain, and I was just thinking about this the whole game of, we get in preseason brain and we start thinking about all the things that they've highlighted are these points of intention and things that they want to do differently or better. And you sometimes forget about some of the areas that they struggled last year. Like that was really apparent in the Indiana game, right? Defensive transition. We haven't heard that much. That was a huge talking point last year in training camp, because they had not been a very good defensive team getting back on defense, right? But then we hadn't been talking about it. They hadn't been talking about it that much in training camp, but that highlights, it highlights, oh yeah, that's still a thing there. So I don't know. It's the new things, the old things, and all of them need to improve to, be able to reach the ultimate goal. But while we're talking about post-ups a little bit, I think that transitions to Ant and his shot selection in the preseason. He has played through the mid-range a lot more than he has in previous seasons. I was just looking at his shot mix thus far in his 2 preseason games. He's taken 5 shots at the rim, 4 in the paint, but not at the rim, 15 from the mid-range, and 12 from 3. So if we lump that paint and mid-range together, as most things do, it's kind of short mid-range, long mid-range. If we put those all together, in the preseason, he's taken 47% of his shots from the mid-range. Whereas last year, for the whole season, he shot 28% of his shots from the mid-range. So we are seeing a near doubling of his volume of shots from the mid-range, and it's coming at the cost of getting to the rim. Threes down a little bit in terms of volume, but relatively close to the high volume that he was at before. In the preseason, more mid-range equals less rim. I don't think that's necessarily for sure we can extrapolate that over and be like, this is what it's going to be during the regular season, because I would imagine that a lot of this is just about Ant wanting to get reps and playing through the mid-range. And Finch even being like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's practice it. I think he's been, at least in the preseason, given the green light to play this way. I'm with you. Some of the post-ups is where they had turnovers and stuff like that. I have liked when Ant has played through the mid-range and done so by backing down a player, because it was Jalen Brunson a few times when he did it in this game. Brunson gets switched on to him. Remember the first one, he's above the break on the right side. Somebody's in the right corner right next to him. That guy clears out of the corner, and Ant just kind of walks Brunson down to the rim, and backs him down and takes, about like a 10-foot mid-range shot that he missed. Rudy Gobert was wide open. He missed Rudy Gobert right there. But if we pause it right before Ant takes that shot, I love everything about that possession. You got Brunson on you. How do we turn this into a major advantage for Ant? Okay, size, get him into the post. The big comes over to help. Rudy's wide open at the rim. If Ant shifts that as he rises up at 10 feet to a lob to Rudy, that's a dunk right there. And so I say that to mean, in this moment, if Ant is going to play through the mid-range at a higher volume than he did last season, I would like it to be in that way, where you're like, this is an advantage situation. I'm trying to further my advantage right here, rather than just like 1-2 dribble, I'm pulling up from 16 feet. Because when he's doing that, there's no like positive externalities to his teammates, right? If he gets in depth and he gets into the post a little bit and plays even more of like a fading mid-range game, there's going to be a greater likelihood that a second defender comes over. A second defender doesn't come over when you're doing like a 1 dribble pull-up into a 17-foot mid-range shot. All that can render is a 17-foot mid-range shot, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with you. The post is where turnovers happen, and some bad turnovers, bad things happen there. But for Ant specifically, if he's going to play in the mid-range, I liked some of that, or that was my initial taste of it. Because we have not seen Ant do a ton of that thus far in his career.
I do not think they are test driving Ant on ball defense from segment 1. I think that is something that they're going to be intentional about and just say, hey, we're just going to make you try harder for more minutes of any given night. I pray that they are test driving this mid-range stuff, because like anything in today's day and age, context matters. And you just did a big pro on his mid-range post-ups against Jalen Brunson. And I agree. First possession was a post-up, I think, against OG Anunoby, who stripped him. Then he kind of lost the ball. He did make the shot because Anthony Edwards is incredible, but that's not good offense. First 2 points of the game.
First possession of the Indiana game too. Remember that?
And
got sometimes stripped, caught it, took a mid-range. Yeah.
And again, sometimes my favorite part about rewatching a game, rewatch that clip and don't watch Ant. Watch the other 4 guys. They're doing nothing. And that's kind of why, and I only say this because it was on Freeform 2 nights ago, but the the focus on the mid-range, the back down, all that stuff is kind of like if Fred Flintstone was like getting pedicures in 2025 and be like, I'm working on my feet. And it's like, Fred, cars drive themselves now. You don't have to use your feet to drive the car. And with Ant, it's like, if it's going to start to dip into, and again, maybe it's a test drive in the preseason, but if it's going to leak into him getting to the rim less often or taking less threes, which I don't think is possible, I still think he's going to get up 10 threes a game. I mean, even last night, it's like, oh, he took 7 in kind of a limited amount of time or whatever. But I just don't really see, I don't really see the value of anyone posting up in 2025 because you rarely see other 4 guys doing much. I mean, Nas last night is trying to like cut down the lane and they're trying to create space. But unless he's going to pass out of that, then again, who does he post up against, right? Like, don't do it against Mikal Bridges. Don't do it against OG. But if it's Brunson, sure, put him in a torture chamber once or twice, get him a rip through, get some fouls. I still think through 3 preseason games, Ant gets not the greatest whistle, and I'm not even complaining about that, but I think that's part of the back down, right? Is like trying to get him closer to maybe get some more fouls called. But I'm just not coming away from it early on being like, yeah, man, that's how we're going to solve the final 4 minutes of fourth quarters is Ant post-ups. So, but maybe I don't see it. Yeah. And maybe it is just we need some more time to kind of let, the plant grow. But so far, I'm not like, yes. Like last year was like, oh, dude, he's the best 3-point shooter in the league after 1 summer of working on it. I don't see that same like ROI off of the post-up mid-range stuff.
I don't either. I just think he's going to do it. So I think it's important that he does it in the best way. And I'll push back on the post-up thing a little bit of not being profitable. What was the best thing that Julius Randle did in the postseason when he had an awesome postseason? He took a size advantage, brought that guy deep into the lane, and if they didn't bring a double, he scored on them. Draymond, who was the first series, the Lakers, if it was like Finney Smith or whatever, a smaller player on him, he would be able to turn that into an advantage, and then a double would come. And then Julius is really good at, when he's at 8 feet, kind of throwing that 95-mile-an-hour left-handed fastball, out of the post to a shooter out there. I think for Ant to be playing in that same way, I'm cool with that, provided he's looking for the kick out in the ways that Julius is when Julius is doing that effectively. You got a little on you, take advantage of it, go through it. If you got a little on you, they recognize it, bring a double, get off of it. I think it can be an advantageous thing, or we've seen it be an advantageous element of Julius's game. I do get your point though of like, wait, we need more of that. Wasn't it maybe enough if we have Julius as our post-up guy? Like, do we need our other high usage player also being a back to the basket guy situationally? Yeah, it's probably going to end up being too much of that. My point is, with Ant very, very likely increasing his mid-range volume, the most important thing is that he takes better ones than he has historically in his career, because he's a 36% mid-range shooter for his career. That's terrible. Terrible. So he needs to, and he's not a terrible player. That number right there says to me, you're not taking the right ones. You haven't found a rhythm of how to get them. And I think this whole thing in the preseason is trying to find some of that. Yes. And then hopefully it settles in a little bit more, once the regular season comes around.
And just to play devil's advocate, I'm not trying to just break it down all pod, but when Julius Randle posted up last season, I just think he's a better post-up player because he's been more naturally doing it his whole career. But when the double came, he kicked the ball out to the guy who led the league in threes. Now I have the guy who leads the league in threes posted up, and if the double comes, he's kicking it out to, I don't know, I haven't thought about this yet, but I don't know if there's a comparison to like when Cat would post up. It's like, I know Cat can probably get a bucket, but he's quote unquote the best shooting big man of all time. Like, why wouldn't I want him spaced out around the 3-point line? So
yeah, sure.
We'll see it again. Like, it's such a small sample size. Let's give it until the end of the month. But when he's down there, if he gets doubled, does he find the right, pass, like you said, or can he find better shots? Because again, maybe this transitions right into the half court offense note that you sent me, but I'm not watching what he's doing in the post and thinking like, okay, cool, that's going to solve the offensive issues that have kind of bogged this team down at the highest levels or in the biggest moments. So far, that's not the medicine that I think they should be taking.
Let's do a little bit of Rob Dillingham.
Okay.
Because I thought, especially in the first half, he played a lot better than the Indiana game, preseason game. He really struggled in the preseason game against Indiana, and this is what Finch had to say about Rob after the Indiana game.
Key for Rob is, pick a direction and go. I think physicality gets him if he's trying to kind of always reverse course. And then if he has to fight it at that point in time, he should be looking to get off of it. But yeah, when he puts his shoulder down and he picks a direction and he can turn the corner, then it opens up a lot of passing angles and other opportunities for him.
I thought he picked a direction and went in the first half, especially like the right when he came in, first quarter, beginning of second quarter. And what that really is doing is leaning on the thing that he inherently has, which is the power of his speed and his first step, right? Reversing course or looking a little bit more east-west, right, or playing a little bit more east-west is him leaning on his skill set that isn't as developed right now in his career of being a floor general, like reading the floor and those sort of things. And so I'm not surprised that in the Indiana game, when he wasn't being as decisive and picking a direction and going, that he struggled more. He seemed to play much more instinctually and in his like natural style of play in the first half. Second half, it did feel like it kind of reverted, and I don't know how you could call that game anything other than up and down. It was, but there was the up, I thought, of that first stint when he was out there. And I think that matters because we can point to that at being like, and they can point to that on film of like, look at this, decisively you went. What happened there? Did he get blocked a couple times? Yes, but I don't think those were in the situations where he burned his guy right away and was there. He the one time he got blocked by Robinson early on, he just kind of got stuck under the rim there, put one up, and Robinson blocked it. Rob has to lean on what he's best at to be able to be positively, a positive producer for this team early on. And the coaching staff needs to put him in positions to do that. I think it's noteworthy that he was doing it when he was surrounded by better talent and there wasn't that help there, because Ant and Dante and Julius and Rudy are there. Their guys are staying relatively attached to them when he's out there surrounded by Juzang, Berenger, that Bernard guy, and whoever, what is the defense doing? They're okay, like Dillingham's the guy in this group. In the regular season, Dillingham is never going to be the primary offensive weapon for this team. Never. He's always going to be out there with the Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo, those type of guys. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you could view the Indiana game as anything but glass half empty, but this one was more glass half full to me, maybe just because, it was an improvement from the Indiana game.
This is just a general statement, not anything hot take-ish. It's 1 week. I thought he had a pretty good game against the Nuggets, and we talked about that. And then I thought the Pacers game truly was one of the worst performances of his NBA tenure. And then last night was really good and then kind of bad. I think for the most part, he looks like the 8th overall pick in a draft when he's out there with better players. And he does not look like the 8th overall pick in a draft when he is out there with guys who probably won't make the roster. Because I don't think last night was the case, because Finch pulled him when it went into overtime, and he just played guys that are probably, again, not going to be here in a couple of weeks. But he has closed like those fourth quarters when everyone else sits with G League guys and two-way guys, and he hasn't dominated. But when he's been out there with more talent, like you said, I think for him, and you hear people talk about this, I think it's a lot still mental for him. And I know people are like, well, he needs to be able to play through it. Finch needs to give him minutes. He is second in the preseason in minutes, only behind Anthony Edwards. Like, he is getting a long leash to play basketball right now. So the concept of him being like, well, if I turn the ball over, I'm not going to play, that's not true this week. But yeah, I thought again last night, am I super hyped about some of the shots he made? Sure, he was 4 from 11, 10 points. But the 5 assists, 1 turnover thing, again, small sample size, but I thought he was just doing the right things, getting downhill a little bit, and then kicking it out. I don't know how Rob Dillingham will become excellent at finishing at his size, because he can get into the paint, right? Just like Theige can or Ant can, but he is diminutively smaller, which it makes it harder to finish around Mitchell Robinson and Cat. But I think last night, for the most part, when he got into the paint, he then kicked it out, and he just, again, kind of did the Dante thing of like, I'm just here to get other guys involved. And then if there's an opportunity or two for me to just go, I do think like Chris Finch is not the one restricting his speed. And I think Rob needs to lean into that a little more. Like, man, if you get the ball and you see a crease, just go. And then either throw a drop off to whatever big is out there with you, or try to finish, maybe try to get some contact. But last night basically was this whole week of Rob Dillingham. Like, it was up, I think, for the most part, and then it was down a little bit. But I think that's just kind of right. Like, no analysis there. It's just, that's the preseason. You want to see him make mistakes and learn from mistakes. And coming off a really poor performance, he's in his head. He's 20. Every teammate of his is saying chip on the shoulder, or that Bones Highland's like, I used to be that guy. For him to bounce back, that was my biggest takeaway, is that he didn't, not pout, but he didn't like just continue to crater. As Bones said, he was upscaling against the Knicks after, again, a really bad performance against a Pacers team that probably had more guards and pressure to put on Rob. But yeah, I also think we're getting really close to needing to stop talking about this because like, people love him, people hate him, whatever. Like, he is going to be, to your point earlier about rotations, like there might just be nights where he doesn't play, and we can talk about, I guess, that if you want. But I just think he's doing what you need him to do in year 2. He's learning the game. Everyone has his back up and down. But I think there's other guys on the team now that are like, if I'm Terrence Shannon Jr. listening to these pods, it's like, hey, can we talk about me? Because I'm probably going to play some more.
This show is brought to you by BetterHelp, and today, October 10th, is World Mental Health Day, and BetterHelp's therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind everyone is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like learning to relate with your kids, healing relationships, or coping with loss, can literally change lives. And this World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible, while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. It's just a short questionnaire that helps identify your needs and preferences, and their 12 plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate mean they typically get it right the first time. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/DaneMoore. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DaneMoore. Let's do a little bit of what do we think we know now about this team that we didn't know 2 weeks ago before they started training camp. I gave you that as a homework assignment. What was the number one thing you did? Let's rip through a couple of these.
I don't know. Oh, this is dark. I don't know if the half-court offense with the starting 5 is ever going to work. I don't know if that's like super dramatic or hot take-ish, but I still see a lot of times where it is like the clip that the Wolves posted during preseason of Ant and Julius running 2-man game. I haven't really seen that too much in the preseason. I've seen a couple flashes of it, but for the most part, it's, like the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum conundrum all those years is like, it was your turn, my turn. I still don't see those guys, like the chemistry between the two of them. It's like, okay, Julius, can you play make this possession? Or Ant, can you play make or get a shot off? I don't see those two cohesively working together. And that's tough then, because Jaden, who I think has had a really good preseason, albeit 2 games, but like when he gets out in transition, I think Jaden is really good with like his ability to kind of de-escalate his speed and just his length and stuff. And then Rudy too, it's like all of a sudden you have a team out there of not role players offensively, but just finishers or, guys that get the ball and score. They don't really create. And I don't know, man. It's just the half court offense to me still is a major work in progress, I guess is my take. And I'm curious what you think about that. And again, it's important to say 3 preseason games, 3 different starting point guards, all who do completely different things.
Well, so I'll spread it out to a bigger sample size. They were 11th in half court offense last year, and it didn't feel like it, right?
Oh,
it
yeah,
felt like what you are describing. Like there's an element of how this offense works with this personnel that your initial like flavor that hits your mouth is a little gross. It's like actually Rudy Gobert is like kind of a perfect like microcosm of that, right? Like you go, oh, Rudy has it in his hands. Like what is going to happen here? He's going to lose it. But you look at it overall in like the aggregate of the season, and Rudy shoots 70% from the field. You know what I'm saying? And doesn't like himself doesn't turn it over that much. There's an element of Julius Randle's game that is like a little sloggy like that too, right? Where he's a back down player, and when those Julius Randle possessions don't work, you're like, oh, why was that offensive possession? But again, in the aggregate, or especially once Julius Randle came back from injury for the final 21 games of the regular season, he shot 60% from 2, and then he shot 60% from 2 in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs as well. I don't know. I just think this team in general is like a test of like aesthetic versus production. You know what I'm saying?
This is eye test versus like advanced stats.
I don't think 11th is good enough though. Right? Like it's just not as bad as it feels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we're both such football geeks. It still feels like the starting 5, and I'm putting Mike in that starting 5 to make this analogy work, but it just feels like a team that comes out and runs on first and second down in football. Like they're just trying to establish this run. There's not a lot of creativity. Guys aren't, checking into the backfield like Justin Jefferson and then running out to the flat. It's just a lot of traditional post-ups and one high screen and roll. And then the dam breaks, right? And here comes Nas, and here comes Dante, and here comes TJ and Nikhil, all these guys, and like the ball's moving, and it's chaos, and it's awesome, right? Controlled chaos. And I just don't know if they're going to break that. And again, I feel equally as proud as I do dumb of like, I don't like watching it. And you're like, yeah, last year it was 11th in the league, which is, I guess that's its own discussion. Is that good enough? It's probably better than you and I are giving credit for, but aesthetically it's tough. And I think aesthetically sometimes it does basketball for dummies leak into their brains. Like you watch again last night, Julius Randle at the free throw line gets stripped. And as soon as it goes the other way, watch all his teammates. I'm telling you, man, like rewatch a game and just do the Bill Simmons body language doctor thing. It's not as bad as it was at the DMV last season in Toronto, but there's just times where when guys aren't engaged offensively because they know that Ant or Julius are just going to dribble the shit out of the ball, it's tough to keep them moving and engaged in a flow. And maybe this is all test driving. Like maybe something will unlock come, Wednesday, a couple Wednesdays from now in Portland. But it, to me, was still as tough to watch last night as it was to watch at really any point last season.
What do we think we know now that we didn't know 2 weeks ago is that Terrence Shannon Jr. is the 8th man. I think
without a doubt.
But we weren't saying that 2 weeks ago when we were doing a pod before.
Correct.
Like we thought it was maybe going to be that, but we hadn't seen Rob. There's this possibility that Rob had taken some massive leap and was a completely different player than he was, a season ago or something like that. That could have impacted it. They could have made some sort of different starting lineup changes or something like that. I think we had Shannon, Dillingham, and Clark in that, like they're replacing Nikhil thing, and probably Shannon at the top of that list, but the pie chart was pretty well split 33, 33, 33. Well, I don't think that's my view of it anymore. And, my view is that is going to be Terrence Shannon Jr.'s role, if not the 22 minutes a night Nickeil had, but the guy who has the 8th most minutes on the team the first month of the season, I'm very much anticipating to be Terrence Shannon Jr.
Again, it's as simple as that dumb little analogy from Monday or whatever. But if he's going to hit threes, everything else is just, I mean, you know that you can bank on all those other things. Like you can see him get the ball in transition too and just want to go, but sometimes kind of be like, I am still a second-year player, even though I'm old enough to rent a car in Hawaii. Like maybe I should defer. And it's like, I hope they break that habit of like, dude, if you're out there and you get the ball, I mean, no offense to Ant, but I still maybe think Terrence might be the best transition player on the team. It's like, just go to the rim. You know how to draw the contact. I think you've shown a little bit in flashes of being able to drive and then kick. But yeah, I don't like doing the whole, we lost that player. Like Nickeil's gone. Jalen Clark can defend. Like that's the replacement. It's like, no, I don't love those types of comps. TJ is vastly different than what Nickeil brought to the table. Nickeil could play make a little more, obviously a better defender, but I think Terrence has solidified himself. If we're going to run it back with 8 starters again, which I hope they don't, I think Terrence has been graduated to, he is one of the 8 starters, and the game looks so easy to him. He is 5 years older than Rob Dillingham, so he has a lot more reps under his belt, but he is someone, I think if you were excited about him 2 weeks ago, I think you should be as excited, if not more excited, about what he can bring to the table. It's just going to come down to how, in 248 minutes? Is that the number? Or how many minutes is it?
240, yeah.
How many minutes can you find for him? Because you said at the top, and I don't disagree, Jalen Clark's not going to play, or spot plays, and then we'll see what Rob does. I mean, another one of my takeaways, spoiler alert, is like the Baron J stuff. I don't think he's going to play. So I think they're going to have to give a lot of minutes and rope to TJ because he solves a lot of the issues that we were just talking about. If Ant's going to post up, I think having Terrence spotted in the corner, he can now, through 2 games, catch and shoot and make those threes. Like that's something that he's worked on. He's taken 1,000 shots in the morning before everyone else shows up. So I think he has had a great preseason, and that's important because he is going to have a lot of expectations in year 2.
They've determined the lowest hanging fruit is transition, right? And they're like,
Correct.
We're picking that one. We're going to get out in transition. We're picking that low hanging fruit. I don't think getting to the free throw line is that low of a hanging fruit for this team. They were 8th in free throw rate last season. They have Ant, who got to the free throw line more last season. Julius can get there. Rudy actually weirdly gets to the free throw line a lot of the time when he gets a touch around the basket. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. can help you bump that up, pick that low hanging fruit up a little bit of being a team that is top 5 in the league in getting to the free throw line. I think Ant, Julius, and Rudy, like those guys can do more of that. But man, he's just got one of those bodies where like a bump doesn't bother him. Like I think he's going to be a heavy and one guy. If and when he gets those opportunities, like in a cut, or like that's why I want him to be a cutter or put himself in a position to be, even if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Like we know he's such a good like north-south with the ball in his hands, but that really is just because he's a forceful, like straight line player. You could have like a shorter straight line from like the 3-point line to the rim, and that can even be like a cut or something like that. I think he can really effectively take a bump to get to the line, but I think he's strong enough to be a finisher through those things too. So if those are 2 of the lowest hanging fruits, transition and getting to the free throw line, to me, those are 2 things that I think Terrence Shannon Jr. really, really helps you do. And I think the value of those things and the things that he does exceeds the value of what I believe Jalen Clark can do, or what I believe Rob Dillingham could do. So I guess I say that to mean I would have him be the 8th man too.
A heavy and one player. I thought you were describing Escalade. You might remember him, the younger brother of Mark Jackson. Another thing too that just kind of stood out last night, and again, 3 games of limited minutes, but it was very noticeable watching the game, watching Terrence rebound. He had 8 last night, and I think that's just another very, very like grain of sand in this whole big picture. But if Terrence, because again, last night, they struggled, I thought, to get defensive rebounds. I mean, the Knicks had, like I said earlier, 18 offensive rebounds that where, they forced a tough shot, but then the Knicks got a second chance, a third chance. If Terrence can get a defensive rebound, that is like simultaneously probably starting the break, right? Because he's going to get it.
Yeah.
And maybe he's being told like, hey, if you get a defensive rebound, no need to find a guard. Just take the ball and go. And then if you get to half court, find someone in transition or kick it to a corner. So yeah, I think big picture, small picture. And you said 2 weeks ago, we didn't really know if he would be solidified as the eighth man. I think in our defense, do you think they knew? Because they had said, at least at media day and stuff, that, it's going to be all hands on deck to kind of replace Nikhil. And maybe that's just coach speak or, trying to give everyone a public opportunity. And they knew privately, but privately and publicly now, it's like that Terrence to me has elevated himself from Jalen Clark and Rob Dillingham. And I think that's okay. I think those other two guys should still find minutes and stuff. But yes, Terrence should be, I guess what you're saying is an every night player. And I'm 100% backing you on that.
Yeah. I guess to answer your question, I do think that is what they think now as well.
Okay.
And maybe they brought it in with the same sort of mentality that we did, which was like, he's one of the three guys. We think he's the most likely to, but we got to see it a little bit. And sounds like he had a great summer, so then now you're seeing him every single day in training camp and in the context of actually how they want to play and not just in a more open gym or in his workouts type of play. I think they're seeing him be the type of player that they want him to be. And my guess, again, what I think I know, is that is going to earn him that eighth spot in the rotation. Do you have one more?
Well, we're almost at an hour, so I'll do my own Johnny Juzang pod.
Sure.
But that man should be on a roster. I love Johnny Juzang. But no, I think you got to close with, again, we're not really, I've had people ask me, like, we're not really talking about Rudy. We're not really talking about Julius too much because you kind of know, like, those guys are vets. You kind of know what they're going to bring to the table. It is more about focusing on some of the unknowns this preseason. And the Baron J stuff, again, kind of like Rob, peaks and valleys. I think some listeners get scared or concerned when I'm saying he shouldn't play, as if like, oh, is that already a bad draft pick? No, I just think he needs seasoning. And I thought again last night it wasn't always either against Carl either. It was just kind of in general. I think the game is a little too fast for him. And I just think that if he is not even close to the rotation in October and November, it is not a sign of panic. I think with a bullet, he is the starting center of the future for this organization. But I just think I'm watching more reps of him being like, oh, that guy just started playing basketball a couple of years ago when his soccer cleats failed him. Then I'm like, hey, the upside here is worth betting on in regular season rotation minutes. And that's okay. But the game is very fast for him right now. And I think he's making some mistakes that are just like real 18-year-old kind of boneheaded things.
Yeah, I wrote down they love of a thing that we think we know now is that they love Baron J and have him at the fringe of the rotation. I didn't think that.
Sure. Yep.
At Summer League or 3 weeks ago. But we've heard a drumbeat of that from them, from people around the team, and physically just like watching him move and run and fly. Like, I get why they love him. I also get why you're saying what you're saying of like, it does look too fast. And I don't think if all of a sudden he was in the rotation to start the season that you would get all of that, because the game does look fast to him. And I think he would get lost at times. He's literally not even 19 years old yet, So that's, to me, that is perfectly fine. And what I've been saying, my view of his role the whole time is, once a big gets hurt at some point during the season, you have to put him into the rotation. Odds are that doesn't happen until 15, 20 plus games into the year. And in 15, 20 plus games into the year, Johan Berencé is going to have had quadrupled the amount of NBA practice reps that he's more than that, I think when he gets his opportunity, if he gets his opportunity, he'll be more ready than he is right now. So I get it. I get why they have him at the fringe of the rotation. But given what this team, how this roster is constructed, there isn't the room for them there. And I just don't, I want to say one thing about the rotation, because I've gotten like this message a lot over the couple of weeks as we've talked about the rotation a lot. And, you know, I kind of roll my eyes at the idea that they're going to be able to play 10 players, right? And people, you know, accurately reference, well, you know, look at the Thunder. They play, look at all these teams that play 10 guys. You know, this is a totally doable thing. Very good teams around the league play 10 guys. The biggest bottleneck to that, specific to this Wolves team, is Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo as the 6th and 7th men play more than any other 6th and 7th man does in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they were 20 minutes a game guys rather than 30 minutes a game guys, then you have 20 more minutes to create an additional spot in your rotation, or 15 minutes more. That's the bottleneck. And that's why when I do like try to map this out, you just run out of minutes. And it's mostly because of them. And that is even factoring in the idea that Mike Conley starts, but does not play a normal starter amount of minutes. It's your top 7 guys, I think, are all going to play 25 plus minutes per game, including Mike Conley. So that's 175 right there, you know, and a lot of those guys are going to play more than 25 minutes. So, I just wanted to say that explicitly of like, that's why me personally, when I look at it, that's why I put a cap at, you know, 8.5, 9 guys on the rotation, because 6 and 7 are just bigger than, or I think are going to be bigger than other teams, which makes Berenger, even if you want to call him 11, feel very distant to me, and even makes Jalen Clark, who I want to have play, also feel distant, and again, be more of like a fringe rotation guy than an actual rotation guy.
2 of the top 7 guys last year in terms of minutes off the bench were Nickeil and Naz. So in the NBA, 30 teams, you had 2 guys in the top 7 of like just chewing up minutes off the bench. I think Dante was like 22nd. Maybe that was injury related, but that just that solidifies your point of they have guys coming off the bench that aren't playing 14 to 18. They're playing 22 to damn near 26 sometimes. And that's why
more than that sometimes.
Yeah. The 8 starters mantra, it's like, yeah, that 9th guy is like very low down the totem pole. So,
and it's bigger this year because there's not Nickeil. Nickeil is gone. So there's more at 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so there's room, but Naz and Dante are still here, you know? So yeah.
And I think, to, you know, again, not to be nerdy, but like Nickeil was 3rd last year in minutes off the bench. I think that's going to be Naz. I think Naz is going to be 3rd. Like you said it all preseason, right? Like you think Naz is going to get more opportunities, and that might be a secret handshake thing that went into negotiations. And then I think Dante is going to get those Naz minutes on the standings of 7th or 8th most minutes off the bench in the entire league. And if you have 7 guys now, and that's why the 8 starters thing, I think we got lost in the sauce a little bit. We're talking about guys playing minutes, not necessarily like these guys are all worthy of starting. They're playing starters minutes. So yeah, I think the rotation, unfortunately, between the rotation and Rob, it's just going to be 2 hot topics for the first part of the season. And I don't have any idea through half of the preseason how this rotation will look. Maybe it will be morning of a game. You bring one of the young cats in and you're like, hey, you're playing tonight. And then you look at the other one, like, you probably aren't going to play tonight, which I think this coaching staff does a good job of getting those guys ready. But I don't know anything about the rotation other than I do think, to your point earlier, Terrence has solidified himself of, well, some guys might not play every night. Any night that Terrence Shannon Jr. doesn't play is a felony. Like, he is good enough to play right now as one of these new kind of 8 starters. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And again, the Berenger stuff, so much upside. I think he's just like, even the rebounding stuff, I think it's going so fast. He's trying to make an impact. He has no bad habits. He wants to impress the coaching staff. I just worry, as if he was my son, that if he is doing too many bad things, he could develop bad habits. And I don't want to see that. I just want to maybe see him watch and learn a little more or get reps against competition that are far less talented than Jokic and Cat, right? Like, let him dominate in Des Moines for a couple weeks and just get reps that are building towards good habits rather than bad habits.
Do you have a notes app note in your phone yet for your bold predictions? You started putting that together yet?
I thought you were asking my writing. Chris Hine, our friend, wrote a book on Anthony Edwards. I am writing a book on Giant Juzang again because I think he is awesome and he should play. But yeah, I'm getting ready for bold predictions because I do think I'm excited that this preseason's already halfway over. I was like, I can't wait for the Timberwolves to be back. And then you're watching them last night, and then it's like, okay, this is fun. And then they sub everyone out for 5 guys I don't know their names. So like the competitive juices are kicking in. But yeah, I'm ready, but I'm not going to share any yet because
I'm
still
just
cooking.
saying
So
that's
next.
That's what we're going to do on Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, more homework. Damn. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're twice a week now, man.
Like I'm graduated. I'm Terrence Shannon Jr. No, so I mean, again, kind of big picture too. Like, what did you? Any last thoughts, or like just close it up here? But it's been fun to have them back.
Yeah,
so
and that game felt like a real game. You know, I mean,
yes,
felt more like a real game, which I thought was,
which will not be the case early next.
I don't think that'll be the case on Monday. Which is part of our strategy for Tuesday when you come on. I don't think we need to do 60 minutes recapping their game against Victor Oladipo and the Loon Lions. So we will do bold predictions next week with Kyle. Kyle, again, if you haven't heard us talk about this, is going to be doing episodes twice a week with me this season, generally speaking, Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings like we've done forever. So I don't know if I'm going to do an episode with Jace on Monday because we did yesterday. So just for listeners, next week's a little bit different too, as just the preseason in general is has a different flow than the regular season does. I'm heading to Chicago next week, to visit my brother and also cover the Wolves Bulls game. So it'll be a little bit. It's not going to be like a pod every single day, like it has been these past couple of weeks. But Kyle and I will for sure do bold predictions on Tuesday, and then Britt's going to be down in Chicago with me as well. So we didn't have Britt on at all this week because he was out of town. So for sure we'll have Kyle on Tuesday, bold predictions, and then for sure we'll have Britt and myself after the game in Chicago against the Bulls on Thursday. And then on Saturday, we got you coming back into town for Wolves Fest at Falling Knife, which we're excited for. And that's crazy, man. Then it's here. Then I'll be in Portland the week after that with you, and we'll actually be able to talk about a real regular season game. So more to come up for listeners. But next week it'll be a little bit lower of volume, just given that I'm going to be driving back and forth to Chicago. Got anything else you want to hit?
Just cheering on the Mariners today. Game 5. Baseball playoffs rock. Again, that's all I had is baseball playoffs rock. It's a good time for sports. The Wolves, I mean, before you know it, right, the Wolves are going to be in Portland and the Vikings are playing the Eagles. It's just a cool time. I think it was a slow summer on the sports calendar for many reasons. There's no Olympics and other things, but it's really starting to pick up now. And I think it's been cool to have Jace and Chris and Britt on a regular basis back in everyone's lives as well. So yeah, the content is going to upscale here moving forward. And I'm really excited for this regular season.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like the Eagles and Giants on while you were watching the?
Dude, I don't even. I'll send you the pic in my office, but it was that, and then the Phillies Dodgers game, and then the WNBA game was a sports. You wait for those moments to have multiple things to kind of distract you or to pull yourself out of whatever you're going through, and then all of a sudden you have 4 screens. You're like, this is not good. We were not designed to have 4 screens in our lives. So, but good night on a Thursday to watch sports.
Yeah, I didn't have any fantasy guys going, so I wasn't really paying attention to it at all where the Wolves were going on, or the Wolves game was going on. And then, I turned it on afterwards. I'm like, 1, the Giants are winning, and 2, Scatterboo has 3 touchdowns. That was
well, I also didn't know at the time, but I was watching the WNBA game, and my buddy texted me at half, like, hey, this is a replay. I was like, oh, no wonder everything looks a lot similar. I was watching a replay of game 3 of Ace's son. So no, it's cool.
Dude, I commend you and Jace are both like stay up on when we're at the game on the Pacers game, like Jace was watching the Yankees game like the whole time on his computer. I can't do it anymore, man. I can't stay up to date on like all the leagues. Like I'm a terrible baseball fan now. When like that
I know, which is weird because as for those that don't know, Dane is a lifelong Cubs fan. So I thought you might be cheering for them. I am just a temporary Mariners fan until the Twins are sold. So no, you got a game 4 tonight, WNBA. I mean, I don't know if they'll be showing it at Falling Knife. Maybe you can ask Dan to put it on, but that's a big game. You got baseball and then football, and it's really just picking up, and then it'll all kind of come around when the Wolves play the Blazers in 10 days, and then it's just a sprint over 6 months to the finish line.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to getting out to Portland for doing some pods out there. When the season rolls around. Appreciate you doing it. So for listeners, it'll either be Jace on Monday, will be the next episode, or Kyle and I doing bold predictions on Tuesday. So I need to figure that out. But until then, he's Kyle. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dance.